Welcome again to What I Did Next from A&T Media. I'm Malak Fuad. I welcome a new guest from the region on each episode, and we take a deep dive into their lives' most pivotal moments. On today's episode, Malak El Baba tells me how channeling her creative side makes her a better leader.
In career, I strongly believe that, everyone owns his or her own career path and trajectory. So I was very much aware of what I wanted to do. I think the marketing kind of satisfied the passion that I had for the movie direction and the art person in me,
The creative
the
side of you.
creative side of
Yeah.
me. And this is a very big side that I still have to do.
Yes.
And I always tell even my team now in business, when we're pitching, when we're doing any business, it's all about storytelling.
Yes, of
I'm a
course.
strong believer in storytelling.
Malak El Baba is a country manager for Visa in Egypt and a leader and role model for so many in her industry. Although she has spent nearly 2 decades in banking and finance, she actually started out wanting to become a diplomat. But destiny had other plans, shaping not just her career, but who she married and where she lives today. I sometimes do introductory calls with my guests to break the ice before we put a mic in front of them. Malak and I clicked right away and there was no ice to break. Our conversation flowed naturally and we discovered we were about to be neighbors, as I was moving to her neck of the woods shortly after our interview. Malak's fierce intellect and people skills were the first things I noticed about her. She believes in teamwork, placing great emphasis on company culture and the people she has encountered on her way up the ladder. As you're about to hear, Malak doesn't just have a great professional story, she also has an incredible personal story, from growing up in Beirut to becoming a runaway bride. It's this blend of personal and professional pivots that made this conversation so impactful and memorable. Let's start with her early life. Malak was born and raised in Lebanon during the Civil War years.
So my parents, and specifically my father, was one of those who insisted to stay in Lebanon. And I still recall all those discussions that he had at night with my mom while they thought we were sleeping, but we were not because of all the sounds and everything that is happening around us. And she would every night ask him, when are we leaving? And every night he would say, if I left and if we all left, who would stay?
What was his work?
So he used to own several factories, out of which most of them were down to ashes through bombs. And he started literally all over again, putting brick by brick in hand, literally, to start all over again. And he did this twice, one through the Israeli invasion and another one through the civil war in Lebanon. And I think I learned from him a lot through this that, you never take no as an answer, even if it was a bomb. You start all over again. There's always a restart, a refresh. And this resilience, I think, and this strength that he had. And now, me being a mother, and knowing how naturally as a parent you're always worried about your kids, about their future, about their well-being, about their security, and still going on in such circumstances um, is really amazing. I can't grasp it.
And I'm sure he didn't want you to realize how worried he was.
Yes.
And that's very hard to try and keep it together and not show for the children.
Actually, it was him and my mom. My mom was a working mom eventually because my dad has always been on the road all the time, and we are three kids, very close in age. So by nature, she had to stay at home to take care of us, and she always pretended to be super strong. And that there's nothing that is happening and that we are all okay, while eventually we were not okay and it wasn't safe and it wasn't the right environment to raise children in there. But she did it. And I think, every time I'm asked as a women leader, who is your idol from a woman? And I have this cliche answer, it is my mom, because, the strength that she had in, not knowing if my father is alive every single day because there was no connection, there was no mobile at the
course.
time, not knowing if we are going to get back from school every day
Yeah.
as kids. I think she is a superwoman. that I'm forever grateful for being raised by
Are your
her.
parents still alive?
No, both of them passed away.
But way after the war.
Way after the
Okay.
war. Yeah.
So they saw you married, they met your
Yes.
son.
My mom met my son for a good 6 months,
Okay.
actually. And the plan, again, the cliche plan that we wanted to give birth in another country for the nationality. But then last minute, I decided I'm doing this whole process in Beirut with her so that she can
Be with you.
be with me
Wow.
and acknowledge and live all of this. And I never regret this.
Yeah. And nationality can be acquired.
And there are more, there are those memories and moments that you cannot replicate, unfortunately. And I'm really happy that she was able to enjoy and experience, even for a very little time.
And where are your siblings?
My siblings are now here in Egypt, actually. So after my mom passed away, uh, I think she was home to all of us. So we decided, and actually, she raised us in a way to be super interconnected. And I think that's one of her legacies. So they decided to take a chance and to move here so that they're closer to me.
Interesting. Are you the eldest?
I'm the youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
And they followed
The most
you.
impactful, probably.
How funny. And they followed you,
They
huh?
followed me, yes.
That's lovely.
Yes.
That's
So
nice.
my brother first with his wife and his kids, and then my sister. And she also happened to later on, she got married to an Egyptian as well. So
Oh, so
Egypt
you are
now,
Egyptian, all of you.
Egypt is home, and
Yeah.
it's lovely to have family here.
Of course, it's a big thing.
Yeah,
It's a very,
it's a
very
very big thing.
huge advantage to be
Yes,
near your family. I
absolutely,
think it's
absolutely.
priceless, actually. Tell me a little bit about the first steps into the world of work.
I started work probably when I was 15 or 16. I decided I'm not taking money from anyone, even my father, and I'm going to be the super independent girl. I had many summer jobs and internships. I worked as a waitress, I worked as a receptionist, I taught Arabic for elderly. So many jobs, private tutoring, and so on and so forth. And then my dream was to become a movie director. And I had Yusuf Shaheen as my idol. And I remember I met him once in the airport and I was going to faint, when I just saw him and shook hands. When I was in school, I was a straight A student and I was going to the scientific section, which is part of the Lebanese baccalaureate back then. And the last day before the first day of my senior school year, I went to the school principal and I told her I want to move to the literary section. And she went crazy. I was like, Malak, you're number one in school. I was like, I know what I want. So back and forth debates, and then I continued. Then I had to convince my parents, specifically my mom, that this is the career I want. And for cultural reasons, she stopped this dream. And she wanted me to pursue actually the dream that she wasn't able to continue because of the war situation and because of us.
For herself.
For herself. And me being so inspired by my mom and so connected to her, I decided I'm going to do this. And I studied international affairs, diplomatic and consular services, and development studies. And then I was perceived as the diplomat of the family. And I was getting ready for my exams to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In parallel, I applied through recruitment agencies for all the NGOs and everything that has to do with the diplomatic relationship. My sister back then was graduating from business and marketing, and she sent her CV through the same channel. And Destiny plays its role. They just switched our CVs. And Maya starts her career in an NGO, and I start my career in banking.
How funny.
And I had I don't know, I remember there were 5-6 banks calling me for interviews, I had the President's Award and straight A student.
Yes.
So this is
Yes, you were a good candidate for them.
Good candidate for an entry, for an entry student. I did all the interviews. I thought, okay, I'll start until the exams of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs come. And I got stuck for 10 years.
You got sidetracked.
I got
Yeah.
sidetracked.
Well, you obviously enjoyed it.
I loved it.
And
I
it's
loved
funny
it.
because you would never have considered that
Exactly.
as an option for yourself.
At all. At all. And the interesting part is that I started as a personal assistant for the chairman of one of the banks, who was my forever best coach, I would say.
Mentor, idol.
Yes, mentor and idol and coach. And I think a lot of the habits that I now have and the skills that I now have.
And presumably the work ethic as well.
Absolutely.
You would have learned from him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he was an icon. He was the first Arab to preside the International Chamber of Commerce.
What's his name?
Adnan Assar. He was the chairman of France Bank Group, the first Arab to chair the International Chamber of Commerce. He was the chairman also of the اتحاد الغرف العربية as well. So very iconic person, locally, regionally, and globally. And I used to go with him on all his business trips. So the exposure that I got at a very early age was immense.
Yeah.
At a very high exclusive level. He was a very, very tough manager, but he would get the best out of you. And actually, he made me discover all the talents that I have. So from 2 years as his close personal assistant running his business at the bank and in his private business in terms of regional commerce,
Yeah.
and being involved in the files of the International Chamber of Commerce, which kind of satisfied my diplomatic part, if you want, to telling me you are a marketeer profile.
He kind of identified that this is your strong area.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And it was on a specific big event that I fully led, also by coincidence, because my manager then decided to quit. So I was the only option.
Yes.
And he gave me this assignment, which was super big pressure. It was, I remember it was the 30th anniversary of the International Chamber of Commerce. So the guest list was the Dutch and Duchess of
course.
what
And people
the
coming from
CEO
all over
of
the
exactly the
place
CEO
and-
of
yeah.
Nestle Global, this level of
Yes.
calibers. And I think I did pretty well, specifically from an ownership perspective. And this is where he told me, your next move is into the marketing world because you do have it.
And you've reached the top with him.
Yes,
So it's time that you went into
Exactly.
another area.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I moved to the marketing in the bank.
Mhm.
Started as a junior as well because there were people who were there a lot ahead of me.
Yep.
And I grew my team year on year, grew my role year on year until the last of which was the head of advertising and communication for the group.
And the group is called?
France Bank Group. So I did the launch in Algeria, I did the launch in Syria, I did the launch in Iraq. We had some business in Libya as well. So it gave me a lot of also regional exposure, cultural one.
Yes. And from there, you stayed how long in the bank at that position?
For 8 years. I'm someone who loves growing where I am. And I think this is one of the special things that I always do. You know, I don't take the role as it is, you know, as a job description.
Yeah.
I always like to create and innovate and grow my role.
It also strikes me that you like consistency.
Yes.
And you like to be in one place for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
Which is unusual in today's world.
Absolutely.
Because people jump from thing to thing. They get headhunted quickly to leave. They get bored. They want to go start their own thing. But you're very much in a very traditional job path, actually. Like people used to do it a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that young.
No, but maybe that's why, actually. Maybe
Yeah.
because you had that exposure to people doing that.
Absolutely.
And that was your model.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, change is always good.
Yes.
And we don't want to be blockers for other people to grow and to move as well.
Yes.
But as long as your job is giving you the satisfaction and the creativity to innovate and to change within the same environment, I mean, why not?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely.
And I think, within my Lebanese experience, I had different experiences, even within marketing,
Of course. Of
from
course.
internal communication to external communication to media relations to comms. So the role by
Yeah.
itself expanded.
And in the end, you ended up using your diplomatic skills.
Exactly.
Because in these kinds of roles, firstly, you're doing cross-country work,
Absolutely.
you're managing a team, you're growing a department. That all takes a lot of negotiation, a lot of diplomacy.
Absolutely. And I always tell, the younger people that I
Yep.
deal with
Yep.
that education is not really about the exact content that you acquire. It's about the skills that you acquire. And I
I
think the
agree.
diplomatic and consular services, they help me a lot in my interpersonal
Of
skills.
course.
I would say, how to deal with the C-level people, complicated situations, complex
Yeah.
situations, crisis management, all of those, which eventually I'm still using
Of
today
course.
in my job.
When we return, a personal pivot brings Malak to Egypt. That's after this break. Welcome back. You're listening to What I Did Next with my guest, Malak El Baba. Your husband and you met well before you decided to get married, and then it didn't happen, and then you got together again.
Yes.
When you met the first time, you were still living in Lebanon.
Mhm.
And what happened? Why did you stop?
I was the runaway bride.
You were the runaway bride.
Yes.
Julia Roberts is in my
Julia
show.
Roberts.
Yes.
Malak Roberts.
You're Malak Roberts.
Yeah, actually, I panicked. I panicked back
Mhm.
then. Maybe because it's again back to my consistency part and the love
Yes.
of the consistency.
Yes.
I just thought I'm not ready for this very big move.
And were you young?
I was very young, 21 probably.
Oh, no
Yeah.
wonder.
Uh.
Malak, that's a baby.
I
I
was
know when I
very
was 21, I couldn't, think further ahead than the next week.
Yeah, I was very young.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, I still need to stay with my parents. I want my mom.
Yes, 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 yes.
And it was a very big change in terms of, moving to another
And
country.
he was already in Egypt, so you would have had to move at that time
Yes,
here.
yes. The
Okay.
plan was to move
Yeah.
to Egypt. He's Egyptian as
Yes.
well. So although the Lebanese and the Egyptian cultures are very similar, but
Yes.
definitely there are also
Of
differences.
course.
So I don't think I was mature enough to grasp those
Fair enough.
differences from both sides,
Of course.
actually.
21 is very young.
Yeah, so I decided to
To not go through with it.
exactly, and in a very healthy and friendly way, at least from my side.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's very impressive that you had the ability at that age to say no.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of girls and boys who marry young, and a lot of the time it doesn't work.
And actually, in my family, it is a kind of a taboo, just to break up with your fiance
Yeah,
or get
yeah.
divorced, or especially back then, we're talking about almost 20 years
Mhm,
back.
mhm.
So I was the first in the family to say no.
But you said no before the wedding, which is the more important thing.
Yes, exactly. Which يعني naturally, in my part of the world, there was like, let's work it out.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
I was really surprised that my parents supported me,
Mhm, mhm.
gladly
Yes,
surprised, I
yes.
would say, and they made me, make the choice and be accountable for it as well.
I think, Malak, when you're close to your parents and you have an open line of
Yes,
communication, they know that you know what you need,
exactly.
and they are there to
They
support you,
trust you.
and they trust
They
you,
trust
you
you.
know?
They trust you.
So you're very lucky to have had that.
Mm,
I have that with my family, and it's a privilege.
absolutely.
So that's a very nice thing that they had your
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
had my back.
exactly.
That's the right
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
That's the right word. 10 years later, we bump again into each other by mere coincidence in a third country. Um, and then, the relationship ignites again as friends first. Um, and I think he was very much present in um, the deterioration of my mom's health situation, him and his family. And I think that was a very big green flag, I would say.
Very positive thing.
Very positive
طبعا.
thing. From two mature people, I would say. And here we are, married with a
And
son.
your mother must have been very surprised. How was her reaction to
Surprising.
the second phase of this
Yes. So
relationship?
surprisingly, actually, my mom at the very first time, she wasn't the happiest because she wanted me at some point of time, even if I'm going to go and live abroad, to come back to Lebanon. And marrying someone who's not Lebanese, I mean, that's not an option. So she always questioned this, and I think she was a bit happy when I broke up. I have to admit. The interesting part is that, every time I met someone or somebody proposed, the official way,
Yes.
she would say, one day you will marry Amr.
Interesting.
And I was like, Mom, I'm in Asia, he's in Africa, and there's absolutely no connection.
And you hadn't stayed in touch.
I mean, every now and then
Yes.
something happens. When Israel bombed Beirut, he called.
Sure.
So those.
But every now and again.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
And then when we met again, I think she was pleasantly surprised, because she knows, that there are the fundamentals.
And the spark was always
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But it's interesting, Malak, how it's all about timing.
It's all about
It's
timing.
all about timing
It's all
because
about
the
timing.
person was right for you from the
Yes.
beginning, but you weren't ready.
Right person, wrong time,
Yeah.
maybe. And I think definitely this 10 years gap has benefited us both.
Yes.
The exposure that we both got in our personal and our professional lives made us appreciate the other person, and the maturity that we acquired. I think that was a game changer, I would say.
Yeah. So 10 years after having first gotten together, you got back together, you eventually got married, and you moved to Egypt.
Actually, there's a funny part to this one as
Yeah.
well. When we got married, so we went to the honeymoon, and then we got back to Beirut, for 2 weeks' time. And I told him, I'm not ready to move. Again.
Bombshell.
And he was like, take your time. And it just took me 3 months,
Okay, that's not so
It
long.
just took me 3 months,
That's okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And he slowly, and I love how he did not put any pressure. And I think this is what made it super quick. I used to come every weekend.
Yeah. The ball was in your court.
Exactly.
You're the one who wants to be in control
He
of it.
made me feel empowered.
Yes,
I would say.
exactly.
And I love this feeling.
Yeah.
So 3 months I moved, and then I was into the shift or the transition from France Bank to Visa, as the marketing manager back then of North and Francophone
And
Africa.
we're talking 2011?
2011.
So this is our revolution?
Yes. We got engaged on, I think it was the 21st of January. His parents or his family were in Beirut. They left the day before the revolution started. He got stuck for a month in Lebanon, and he made use of this to go on skiing classes, doing nothing. I had to go back to my work. We got married in September, so I moved in September,
you moved
right
after that.
after
Yeah.
the revolution, but it was the year of the mess.
And it was a very difficult time, of
yes.
course, you know that. And to move
yes.
to this country when all of that was in turmoil was a big risk.
It was.
But interesting that you did it.
I did it.
Yeah.
I come from war generation.
Absolutely. This is easy
that was
for
easy
you.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, when I first came here, he didn't want me to drive out of security, so he hired a driver for me, and then it took me a month to say no. I need my space.
I need to control the car.
I need to exactly.
I want privacy.
I want privacy.
Yeah.
I want my space. I used to drive and bombs around me, literally.
Yeah.
So I'm
You were comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable.
When we come back, Malak tells me about her career move to Visa and how her work there is so vital to how she sees her legacy. That's after this break. Welcome back. You're listening to my conversation with Malak El Baba. Tell me about Visa. What is it about Visa that attracted you?
So pre-Visa, whenever I used to write a brief to my agency, there was a section where we used to put kind of a referral or, a company or a brand as an example to
Right.
whatever brief we want to have. And surprisingly, Visa was always one of those examples that I've put. I've always loved the brand for what it stood for, for what it looked for visually as well, and definitely the principles behind it. It's just this. There is one company that can literally connect millions and millions of people every second from around the world. I mean, what better cause could any company have?
Yeah.
Um, so when I was looking for jobs in Egypt, definitely it was the first one that I've applied for. And I still remember the call that I got from the recruiter from London telling me you have an interview. I was in my small office in Beirut and I was literally jumping all over. It was a dream
You
for
were
me.
really happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was so excited.
Yeah.
And actually, when I moved into the company, I realized how lucky I am even further.
It met your expectations?
It exceeded my
Wow.
expectations, I would
Because
say.
that's very unusual.
Yes,
Yeah.
it exceeded my
Yeah.
expectations. I think the people, the culture, there's a strong belief in what we want to do and the change that we want to do around the world. And I think it really stems out from the vision that our founder had. So our founder, Dihak, said, it was at the time where money was all cash or checks. Okay, why don't we digitize this? And why don't we make the money move in the speed of light? And he did it. I mean, this guy was a visionary. And this is where the name of Visa came. It's the access that you give to all those people, to me sending money to you, helping my son, paying for
It's the ease of it.
the
Yeah.
convenience,
The
the ease
convenience
of
of it.
it,
Yeah.
the access that it gives to many people, the capabilities.
So you began in marketing with them.
Yes.
And at the beginning, your remit was Egypt and the Middle East?
No, I was North Africa and Francophone Africa.
I see. Okay.
So all the Côte d'Ivoire's and
Yes.
this part of the
Yes.
world.
And are you Francophone?
French is my third language.
Okay. So you
Yes,
know how to
yes,
work in
yes,
French.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, marketing is a
It's an
global,
English, but it's English language
and it's a
mainly.
global language,
That's right.
It's as long as you know, or as long as you put an effort to understand the local nuances of
That's
the
right.
market, then the language is
And
simple.
presumably Visa had offices in all these places. Oh no, they didn't.
No, actually, no.
So you were managing it from here.
From Cairo, and actually, I still remember my interview with the GM who hired me here, because in Lebanon I had a team of 15 people reporting into me.
Yes.
And he said, "This is a self-contributor role. How do you see yourself doing this? Especially that I think there were 32 markets that I used to lead." And I was like, "I'll do it."
And at the time you were all alone.
Yes, I stayed all by myself in marketing for a good 8 years.
Wow, Malak, that's a lot.
Yes,
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
And traveling a lot, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Yes.
a lot of travel,
Yeah.
a lot of work, a lot of markets, a lot of internal stakeholders that you need to manage,
course.
a lot of external stakeholders that you need to manage as well. So again, back to the diplomatic and consular
Absolutely.
services,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that helped a lot,
yeah.
navigating through the different needs of
Yes, of
everyone.
course.
And managing this properly. So I moved into several marketing roles, the last of which was the senior director for marketing for North Africa, Levant, and Pakistan. Plus, I was heading the agencies relations for MENA. And this is where I started, growing the team and hiring more people.
And then at some point they were looking for a country head, and they obviously looked
Yes.
internally. How did you adjust your role? How did you make that jump into a completely different kind of work, actually?
So in career, I strongly believe that, everyone owns her own career path and trajectory. So I was very much aware of what I wanted to do. I think the marketing kind of satisfied the passion that I had for the movie direction and the art person in me,
The creative side
the creative
of you.
side of
Yeah.
me. And this is a very big side that I still have to do.
Yes.
And I always tell even my team now in business, when we're pitching, when we're doing any business, it's all about storytelling.
Yes, of
I'm a
course.
strong
Of
believer in
course.
storytelling. So I was very clear on having a CMO track. And this is where I was very focused in terms of education, upskilling myself, growing my role, so on and so forth. And then I had our GM back then coming to me saying, I want you to apply for the country manager's role. I was like, I'm not, you're crazy. I'm an advertising person, I'm a comms person. And he said, at this level, we're looking for a set of skills, not a set of competencies. So I don't want you to be a technical person. I want the leadership skills that you have and that we have experienced with you in several mega projects. So I was someone who always raised his hand or her hand in, putting my nose in different.
You were proactive
Exactly.
about your role.
About my role and in
your
an
vision for the business.
and in an expanded way.
Yes.
So, every time there was a complex discussion or something happening with a client, I would say, okay, I can go and help. I have good relationship with this client.
And presumably you were a team player across all
Yes,
departments, and
absolutely.
that's key.
Absolutely.
That's key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This definitely helped.
Of course.
And I think my curiosity helped. My proactiveness helped. My ability to bring people together, I think that was the main edge that I had.
If you were to look back at yourself, if you're looking back at your career, where would you see your biggest impact being?
The teams that I have built, the empowerment of people, being an enabler to let even few people discover the talents that they might have and not aware of, similar to the experience that I personally went through. I think this is the where my passion is, dealing with people, dealing with teams, even with clients as well. But I think the empowerment and the enablement and the growth of people around me is something that I think I do well. I can definitely do more. So I'm working very much on my coaching skills nowadays. This keeps me quite busy.
Good.
As an executive.
Yeah.
And I hope this is the legacy that I would leave.
That's a great legacy to have. Thank you, Malak. That was amazing.
Thank you.
That was really great.
It was really nice.
That was my episode with Malak El Baba, Egypt Country Manager for Visa. Malak also leads Visa's Women Leadership Network for MENA and is the winner of several market leadership awards, including 4 MENA Effies and 2 Media Efficiency Awards. If you're a member of the show, you'll get Malak's bonus episode next week where we talk more about the transformative nature of digital payments for the region, as well as more on her current role. You can also find extended clips from our episodes on YouTube and connect with us on Instagram, X, and on LinkedIn. Just search for What I Did Next. Thank you for joining me today. You've been listening to What I Did Next from A&T Media. I'm Malak Fouad, and the show is produced by Chirag Desai. See you in a couple of weeks.